Hello and welcome back to the Motorsport Baithak podcast. I'm your host DD and joining me once again today is my friend and your co-host Vedant. On this episode, we will be previewing the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix of 2021. Yes, we are going back to Imola. So let's grab some chai, take our seats. Say to tha. So let's grab some chai, take our seats, ready our opinions and dive right into the conversation. Hello Vedant. Finally, after another summer break, we were back racing in Formula One this week, and I'm so excited. It's like round one all over again. It just doesn't feel like we were in Bahrain 2 weeks ago. I have already forgotten what happened that weekend, except I'm ready for another round of Max Verstappen versus Lewis Hamilton, and hopefully Bottas in the mix, considering what happened last year. And I'm really excited once again.
Yeah, it is funny that you think it was 2 weeks because it was 3 weeks.
Well, it's 2 weeks at this time at the time of recording, but I know what you mean. It's been a long time, and it's been hard to keep myself occupied.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, but yeah,
It has been
I
that
mean,
long. I get it. It has been that long.
my bad. But 3 weeks between two races is, as you said, is a summer break in Formula One, and it is quite strange that they did this. But we know that due to situations around the world, it's very difficult getting races. But we are great to be back. Glad to be back in Imola, and especially that it is Imola, and what a track it is. A legendary circuit. Last year we had a great race.
Yes, but
Like we had a good race.
let's
We had a
let's
good
not
race.
let's not hype it too much, because after all it's Imola. It's hard to follow, it's hard to overtake. Last year it was spicy because of the various incidents that happened during the race. The racing like itself was nothing outstanding, but there
Yeah,
was enough to keep
sure.
us occupied throughout the race and after the weekend and keep us buzzing. But let's not. I just don't want to get my hopes too high, and then just like wake up on a Sunday morning and be like, oh damn it, this is just gonna be Monaco or something like that all over again. I just don't want that to
Well,
happen.
well, we do have a longer DRS straight, so we do
Well,
have a longer DRS
that doesn't
section.
make a huge difference in my opinion. So let's not talk about it. But there's a lot
Yeah.
happening in the F1 paddock right now, though, and there's a lot to look forward to, especially in Imola. And I think the biggest talking point for me going into Imola this weekend is Alpha Tauri. We know Yuki Tsunoda has had a great performance in Imola before in the Junior Series. We know Pierre Gasly loves Imola, and Alpha Tauri had a great time testing in Imola last year. And Daniel Kvyat finished fourth for Alpha Tauri at Imola last year once again. So a lot of potential in AlphaTauri in this weekend. I feel they could be they could come out much quicker or as quick as McLaren's in this weekend, and really give them a run for their money.
Yeah, you're right. Yuki Tsunoda has done a lot of testing at Imola to get him up to speed to Formula One
Yeah, that's
cars.
what I meant.
Although
Not junior series. Yeah, that's what I meant. Like testing for AlphaTauri
yeah,
in the preseason. Yeah.
although it was in cars like 2018 or 2017 cars, but still learning the track and learning Formula One is very important for rookie, and his experience in Imola. I mean, I think except of Kimi Raikkonen and Fernando Alonso, he has driven Imola the most right now. I feel like that.
That is probably true. That is probably true.
Yeah, so it will be exciting because he had a great first weekend in Formula One, and we know that AlphaTauri are quick. We know that they are right there behind McLaren and like among that midfield group. So it's going to be a great weekend for them, hopefully, and it's their
Uh,
home race as well.
Absolutely, you are right, and I just can't wait to see Yuki in that car once again. He he had a slow start to the weekend, but a great result at the end of the day in Bahrain a few weeks ago. Gasly had a disappointing start to his season in Bahrain, but hopefully he'll bounce back, and he'll capitalize this time. He didn't have a great time in Imola last year too. Uh,
I mean, he
it was a
qualified
DNF
fourth,
for
but he
him.
had
Yeah,
an
he
issue.
did qualify fourth, which was great once again. But he did had to retire at lap 8 because of a mechanical failure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But biggest story. Now we all know what happened last year at turn 2. Valtteri Bottas overtook Lewis Hamilton for the lead, and so did Max Verstappen slot himself between Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton. Now, there are 2 points here. First, we remember how Lewis Hamilton got a more favorable strategy, which allowed him to win the weekend. And we remember what happened last race in Bahrain with Valtteri Bottas when he asked for an alternate strategy and he was not given the choice, which would have essentially put him again in contention for the win in Bahrain. And the second point, if the Red Bull is just as quick as it was in Bahrain compared to the Mercedes, and if Red Bull gets their strategy right, there's nothing that should stop Max Verstappen from winning this race. There is absolutely nothing, and we should have a championship fight after this race. The same amount of points each for both Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen.
You are absolutely right. I mean, Imola is a great track. Lewis Hamilton will not be able to use the track limits as much as he did in Bahrain because of the nature of the track. And also, I mean, the circuit is like it requires high downforce, in my opinion. It doesn't have long straights, but it has a very twisty sections. And the Red Bull front end, we know, is great. Is one of the most stable front ends in Formula One. So that certainly will help Max Verstappen and Red Bull. And of course, the deficit Mercedes has to Red Bull due to the regulations is a key factor in that. But yeah, a great start to the week. A championship would be Max Verstappen winning the race wherever Lewis Hamilton may finish.
Yep, and I really think so what happened in the previous race in Bahrain, if you remember, Lewis, the way Mercedes got themselves into the race was with Lewis undercutting Max Verstappen and taking the lead of the race, and that is where it became interesting. And I think Red Bull will be wary of that, and they'll try to either take charge of the race by acting first with their strategy, or they'll be much quicker to react to what Lewis Hamilton will be doing behind them. And I think Imola presents a very good chance for Sergio Perez to show his true pace in the Red Bull. I know it's only the second race, but I think this is a great place for Sergio Perez to just since it's not the best track to overtake. I think so. If Sergio Perez has a good qualifying, we might see Sergio Perez. He finished P5, which was great in Bahrain, but I think he can really stick it up there with the Mercedes, especially like you said. The Red Bull front end and even the rear end this year is doing much better than Mercedes. So hopefully in a high downforce circuit, you would imagine that Mercedes would struggle a bit more this year comparatively, and their pace might even drop a little bit further, providing Perez that little bit extra of a chance to stick it in there between Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. But again, coming back to my first point that I made when I was talking about Red Bull and Mercedes, what do you think Valtteri Bottas needs to do to get a win over Lewis Hamilton? What does he need to do? Because, like I said, Valtteri Bottas is not getting a favorable strategy from Mercedes. He's either getting the same strategy or a less favorable strategy. And which is clear, the fans may say whatever they want to say, but that is almost a matter of fact for me. I'm not swaying towards Valtteri Bottas. I'm not swaying away from Lewis Hamilton, but that is just as a matter of fact as it can be. What does Valtteri Bottas need to do this weekend? Because usually we know Valtteri turns up to the first race, but that did not happen this year. After qualifying, when Valtteri was talking to the press, he said, I have set up my car for the race, and hopefully I'll have better race pace than Lewis. But that did not seem to be the case when the race unfolded. So what can we expect from Valtteri?
Well, I think he should call Nico Rosberg.
I think Nico has already said what Valtteri needs to do in the commentary box 1,000 times.
Of course, obviously Nico has said a lot of the times how he got under Lewis's skin and how he won that championship. But Valtteri himself has admitted and realized many of the times that he needs to be selfish. He needs to think of his own interest. Obviously, he is in a team. He needs to be a team player as such. But, I mean, if the team is being a little unfair to you, you can, in my opinion, go ahead and do your own thing to an extent, I believe. But I think to get a win, you need to be selfish. You can't in Formula One. You can't be okay. Let's
Yeah,
see.
but we've
I'll
been
go with.
saying that, and he's been trying, and we know he's being shut down, and I think what we need is for Valtteri to just blitz Lewis on track, regardless of whatever happens in the pits and in the meetings, and I think that's the only way.
Well, obviously beating Lewis on the track is the most important point.
And
And
Lewis has turned up. We know Lewis has turned up to the first race, and he has a championship battle on his hands, and he's not going to go down without a fight for the 8th world title. But anyway, I don't think we can add much to the debate between what Valtteri can do. Let's move on. Let's move on. Daniel Ricciardo had a podium finish last year in Imola. What can we expect from him? He looks strong in the McLaren. He had some damage because of which he had some flow damage towards the rear of the car, because of which he could not get past Charles Leclerc at the start of the race. Unlike how we saw Lando Norris just go past Charles Leclerc and maintain that gap to him. But Daniel Ricciardo had a great race. Probably likes the track, and I think this could be a great weekend for him.
yeah, Ricardo had he got a podium last season in Imola, and obviously the damage he suffered in Bahrain was because of the contact with Pierre Gasly. But I think he is set in the team right now, and I mean, with a 3-week gap, the consistency of handling a new car might get a bit off, because if you had 2 back-to-back races, you might get consistent and learn it better. But the 3-week gap might make it difficult for him to an extent. But I mean, Ricardo is a great driver. We know that he is aiming for wins this season. He wants to be in the right place at the right time to get those wins, and yeah, I mean, he'll turn up. Hopefully he turns up,
Yeah,
because
absolutely. And
we want to see Daniel Ricciardo do his best at the front of the grid.
Yep, and if you remember, we had only 2 practice sessions or 2 days of racing, 1 practice session I think, last year in Imola. We didn't have a 3-day weekend. It was a 2-day weekend in Imola last year. Unlike this year, so the drivers will have a lot more time on track, and the teams will have a lot more time to test the tires and set up the cars. But if you remember the results from last year, we had both Alfa Romeos finishing 9th and 10th. Both Alfa Romeos in the point last year, unlike the Ferraris. And we know the Alfa Romeos are in much better shape this year. So can we expect the Alfa Romeos to finish in the points once again at Imola?
See, that's a difficult thing to answer, because Alfa Romeo, we know they are at the bottom of that midfield. Obviously, last year in Imola, they came from 18th and 20th on the grid to take that 9th and 10th. Even though there were 5 retirements, but still getting to those points after starting 18th and 20th is a great achievement. But again, Alfa Romeo are a lower midfield team. We cannot guarantee anything for them like we can do for McLaren and for Ferrari this season. We can't guarantee anything for Alfa Romeo. They certainly have a better package this season. They certainly have a better engine this season thanks to Ferrari. So we can only hope that they do well. And Antonio Giovinazzi has been improving his craft over the years. So yeah, I do hope they can fight.
And both Leclerc and Sainz had a great race at Imola last year, and hopefully they'll have a great race at Ferrari this year. Ferrari is bringing in upgrades, but the biggest news has been coming out of Alpine, who is saying they're bringing some major upgrades to Imola, which will boost them into the top midfield, the upper midfield pack, with McLaren and Alfa Romeo. That is their claim, but we saw Alpine struggle in Bahrain, but we'll see how that pans out. Big news coming out of Mercedes with James Allison stepping down as
technical director.
Yeah, exactly, as technical director, and being replaced by Mike Elliott. Mike Elliott has had a vast history in F1, and he has been the technology director at Mercedes for the last few years under James Allison, and we all know Mercedes does a great job. Whenever they're switching roles, when they're making transitions in the management, they do a great job. So hopefully, it doesn't impact the Mercedes program a whole lot. I think the biggest impact will not be seen this year. It'll probably be next year. But again, big news coming out of Mercedes.
Yeah, definitely. James Allison mentioned that he has a shelf life, and he wanted to get a different challenge. And Toto Wolff said that they created that position of chief technology officer specially for James Allison to keep him in the team,
Absolutely.
which speaks for itself. I mean, that is a huge thing. That it just shows how important James Allison is for Mercedes. And I just found out, I was researching James Allison, and I found out he was part of that 2000 to 2004 Mercedes Ferrari dominance era. He was in Ferrari that time, and I mean that just shows how experienced and how great a engineer this man is. So keeping Allison in Mercedes definitely will help Mercedes in the future, whatever that role may be. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And don't count Mike Elliott out either. He started as an aerodynamicist at McLaren, moved to Renault, and then he was at Mercedes, like I said, in the role of a role of technology director recently. So he is the man for the job, and I'm pretty sure if Toto Wolff and the senior administration have taken that decision, there must have been a lot of thought put behind it. And if they've said that Mike Elliott is the man for the job, then he definitely is, in my opinion. Another thing about upgrades, though, I forgot to mention that Haas will be finalizing their car for the season at Imola, which will be interesting. I don't see how much performance they're going to gain, but whatever it is, I hope it gives Schumacher and Mazepin a fighting chance with the Williams, at least, if nothing else, so that they can at least keep up and have a few battles over the course of the season.
Yeah, I mean the upgrades might help them not embarrass themselves throughout the season.
Absolutely.
Hopefully. But yeah, has been clear about their strategy for 2021, and hopefully they can get a good technical start to the 2022 regulations. But that brings me to a major point right now. When do you think, like, we know about Haas that they are switching to 2022 completely right now, and we know that a few midfield teams like Alfa Romeo and Williams might shift to 2022 after a few races. But when do you think the upper midfield teams like Ferrari and like McLaren will shift to 2022?
I think Ferrari already announced that they'll be developing the car until the Spanish GP, like the 2021 car, until the Spanish GP, and then they'll switch to developing the 20. They'll switch the focus completely to the 22 car. And I think I'm a little worried, because if I was any team, except for I guess Mercedes and Red Bull, I would not worry a whole lot about the 2021 season, and I would try to switch to the 22 season ASAP. But I'm not as knowledgeable as the people working those teams are about what is the good timeline, and how not just the financials work out, because obviously the prize money is a huge thing. Even though Formula One is trying to reduce the gap between how much the winner gets paid and how much the 10th place team gets paid, the prize money that they get. But again, there's more to think about this year. It's also about how much aero time they'll get in, like the wind tunnel and stuff like that, and it'll all play a big role in how much development they can undertake for the 22 car and what is viable for each of the teams. So it's hard to say, but if I was just looking at plain and simple, like I said, I would stop developing the car if I was not Mercedes or Red Bull as soon as possible. Once I thought we had a good package, and go for 2022, because that is where the next 3 years lie for F1.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was contemplating on it, and I thought that maybe I feel the Baku weekend or the Monaco weekend would have been a better option, because Monaco, you obviously need a different setup and all those things. But obviously I was just thinking about it, because we will see the performance change drastically based on not drastically, but we will certainly see the performance change based on when the teams move between projects.
Let me just look up the calendar once and let's see what we've got. So next up we have the Portuguese Grand Prix, then we have the Spanish Grand Prix and the Monaco Grand Prix. So I think that covers like a huge, especially like if you're going to Spain. I think Spain has been the testing ground for F1 for the last few years, and the teams know the circuit really well. So I think Spain, even though it's going to be a race weekend, and they'll just again get 3 practice sessions for the race, but I think the teams will still take, which is why maybe Ferrari is continuing until Spain with the 21 development, and they'll switch to 22 development at Spain, because maybe the Spanish Grand Prix provides grounds for the teams to test their cars against the 2020 parameters that they have, and things like that, and see what changes are, and it provides them like a neutral ground to test their cars. So that might be one reason why teams are choosing to go up until the Spanish Grand Prix to develop their 2021 cars, and not any further into the season.
So that was like one of my reasons, because you can get feedback at the Spanish Grand Prix and then finalize your car by Monaco or Baku for the rest of the season.
I guess that does make a lot of sense. But yeah, I'd say you're right. I say that's all from my side for the Imola race preview, and I'm just excited to see, like I said, Verstappen versus Hamilton round 2. Can't wait for Sunday to come around.
Definitely, it's going to be a great. It's hopefully going to be a great race, and finally we can say that the season will get underway.
Oof.
The
golden word.
The 3-week gap is ridiculous.
Yeah.
We get 3-week gaps in the actual summer break.
I had to watch NASCAR
Hungary
to keep myself
Belgium.
occupied. I had to watch NASCAR to keep myself occupied during the 3-week break. That is how far away I had to. I had to go from F1.
We did have an exciting dirt race in NASCAR during that period. So
that is true, and and it's gonna happen next year again. So reminder to everyone else and myself that please do tune in to the NASCAR dirt race in Bristol in 2022 if you missed out this year. But yeah, any closing thoughts from you, Vedant, about the Imola Grand Prix this weekend?
I'm just hopeful, like everybody else, that Max Verstappen will challenge for the championship from Imola onwards.
Alright, so that's it. That's a wrap up for this one, and we'll see you guys during the race review of the Imola Grand Prix after this weekend. Thank you for listening to us, and thank you, Vedant, for joining me once again here today. We'll catch you on the next one.